and welcome. It's episode 117, Redley for Retrocast. I'm your host, JD, as usual, joined by Joey. Your theme pick today, what is it?
Yes, science is cool.
I like science. I am a scientist of sorts.
People love science. So we got
I got a science job. I got a science degree.
Me too.
Well, come on. Computers, get out of here. What did they ever do?
The name computer scientist. Thank you very much.
Whatever. That's not a real science job.
Idiot.
Real science jobs involve planes, trains, automobiles, rocks, and alien portals to open.
Mm-hmm.
You do any of those things I just named, buddy?
I open portals. The government just doesn't know about them.
Oh, okay. All right. So, yeah, science is cool. How did you... well, Colin, you're here, too. How you doing?
Howdy.
All right.
I'm doing okay.
All right, okay. Joey, how'd you come to this theme of yours?
Well, I wanted to play Gizmos and Gadgets, so I was trying to figure out a theme around that. And the other game is completely different, so maybe stretch a little bit. Connected with through science, so you know, science is cool.
Yeah, I have some history with
science rules.
Or maybe you just drool. Ha!
I don't know. Science rules in one of the games, but does it rule in the other?
It can. Depends how good you are at platforming in both of them.
Yeah, true.
Just
surprisingly.
neither of them have a cameo from Bill Nye.
Yeah, that means they can't be all that good anyways. Probably not one of them is critically acclaimed. No way.
Right.
Okay. So, what has everybody been doing? What have you been playing? Colin, you go first today.
Okay. Haven't really been playing anything new these past couple of weeks. Mostly the usual stuff like Murder by Numbers and Owendan 2. But I've almost beaten those ones, so maybe you'll hear about some different games in the future.
Cool. Okay. Anything different new from the game you were playing that's maybe worth mentioning, or just same old, not much has changed?
Pretty much same old. I'm still trying to beat that last song on Owendan 2 on the highest difficulty. Little by little, I'm making sections of it into muscle memory.
Okay.
And although I also revisited Broforce. You've heard me talk about that in the past. But for the audience's sake, for our newcomers, it's basically a little side-scrolling platformer where you play as various action heroes from different movies from 80s, 90s, maybe 2000s. Got Rambo, John McClane, RoboCop. But every single one of these characters has their name modified to have bro in them. Like you'll have Neo from The Matrix as Mr. Anderbro. Or B.A. Baracus from the A-Team becomes B.A. Bro-Rackas. And the bride from Kill Bill becomes the Broad. You get the idea. It's just kind of a fun little distraction. I've been trying out Iron Bro mode, where if you get a game over, your entire campaign gets erased and you have to start all over. But I'm pretty much over it at this point, so I'm probably gonna either go back to Strafe or do something new, like Bloodstained. Still haven't played.
Really hard at the end. Like really hard.
Yeah, I'll see how I get to it. Mostly been absorbed in podcast games, but another reason I started watching through Stargate SG-1 on Netflix. Been meaning to watch that for years, but never got around to it.
Wow,
always a good watch.
That's a good one. Yeah, that and Battlestar Galactica. In fact, I say you should watch them both at the same time.
I've actually never watched Battlestar.
Ooh.
Well, I've watched a few episodes of Battlestar when my mom was watching it. She was really into that show. But yeah, did you know Stargate SG-1 was actually filmed mostly in Canada? Specifically British Columbia.
Yeah, I was about to say, probably Vancouver area, like everything else is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nobody films in Toronto unless you got a boatload of money, like Suicide Squad. Everyone goes to BC.
Yeah.
Much cheaper.
Yeah. Although I also watched the first episode of the 4th season of Stranger Things last night, finally. Man, what an ending to that one. Whew. Looking forward to the rest of the season.
I don't think I ever finished the first season. I think I got like halfway and stopped.
The last episode of this season is like 2.5 hours, so prepare yourself for it.
Oh my god, what?
Yeah, the one
Death
before
Stranding?
that, like an hour and 45 or something like that. So the last two are like 2 movies.
Good god.
Yeah, I mean, most of the episodes are already almost movie length. I mean, they're like hour and a quarter long each. It's like Sherlock.
Good god. Okay.
Yeah. But
What have
I've
you
also been
playing,
getting
Joey?
back.
Oh,
No.
Colin's not done yet. As usual, I cut him off. I'm sorry.
That's one of the disadvantages of not being able to see each other.
Yeah.
Can't see the other person moving to talk. But like I was saying, I've also been getting back on my bike recently. I mean, YouTube recommended some GoPro mountain bike downhill trail videos to me, and that encouraged me to dust off my own mountain bike and ride some paths, which I haven't done in the entire year I've thus far lived in my new apartment. Bad, Colin, bad! But yeah, that's everything on my end.
Okay, Joey. What you been up to besides going to the Coheed and Cambria concert this weekend?
No games outside the podcast. I've only played those. I've been messing with my new 3D printer that I got actually the day of the last time we recorded. So I'm pretty much printing around the clock with it.
Man, if we lived closer, I'd be like, hey, Joey, I got some stuff to print.
I guess I'll print it. I can ship it to you.
You could, but I haven't pulled the trigger on getting the Sega Genesis kind of makeshift thing yet.
Why not?
I ended up buying a bunch of like Colorado Avalanche paraphernalia instead.
Fair enough.
And I picked up golf again, so that's where a lot of money's been going. So
nice.
I didn't really play during the pandemic like at all. So yeah, it's like my driver is a piece of shit. Like it's the shaft is too light, those kinds of things. Where, anyways, golf talk. It's an expensive hobby. That's the point.
Yeah, it is.
When it costs like $20 to $30 an outing to go out, well, I suppose that's not much different than what I pay for bowling once and twice a week for the leagues and tournaments.
Yeah, but you make money bowling. You don't make money golfing.
This is true. This is true. I get at least one of those back per week bowling, but okay. Well, if you haven't been playing anything other than podcast games, I would say me too. For one in particular, the other one was more of a shorter adventure, but Horizon Zero Dawn Horizon Forbidden West, still off to the side. I did just power through Hitman 2 on my PS4. Because I want to play. I was like, man, I got Hitman 3 on the PS5. I kind of want to know what the fuck I'm doing and the story and the wacky story. As minimal as it is, it's still something. Boy, if you just do the like main missions to just go through the game, you could beat Hitman 2 in like 5-6 hours. So that was just kind of an afternoon for me, just laying around. So that was nice. Gameplay heavily improved from the first one. Some cool little assassinations you could do. One was like shaving a dude in the chair, and then you just slit his throat, and you're like, yeah, all right. I'm just gonna take a little off the top here. Yeah. And the last mission of Hitman 2 was really rad. It's on this like secret organization island with essentially a rich cult, and they believe the world's going to end, and it's just a whole slew of just despicable rich people just try to get away with shit, and you end up burning one alive, Wicker Man style. It's pretty sweet.
Oh man.
Yeah. So Hitman 2, good success. I enjoyed it. Nice, quick, easy game. Lots of side content to do, which is cool. And then Triangle Strategy. I have continued playing that. That is at the point where I'm just under the halfway point in the game. And I gotta say, story-wise, it's very bare bones. There's really not much to it at all. It's typical. So the I don't think I've gone into the whole premise of the game, just the beginning. But it's 3 nations. The biggest resource is salt. One nation has it. It's like this huge religious dictatorship that owns the salt mines. Then there's one that owns like the iron and things to make big heavy material, and then there's like grassland and farmland. You are a character of a main house under the farmland nation, so you can guess that the ability to fight is much less than the others. So the game's like turning of events happens when there's a mine discovered kind of in between the 3 nations, and you kind of can guess that it's another salt mine that isn't owned by the one nation, so that could change the course of how this world works and operates. And there's an assassination of one of them, and they use that as a pretense of war. It's all of their own doing, and you, part of this house, has to now protect the prince that your character's best friends with. And now you're just kind of going through the motions of kind of putting a team together, building up equity, I guess, going through some little Game of Thrones that is working around, but it's very, I don't want to say bland. That's probably not the right term, because it's just so much dialogue in between gameplay over and over and over again. Luckily, there is the like auto play button, so you can get it's fully voice acted. So anytime you initiate a scene or sequence, you can just hit the button and it goes through it all. And so you're just kind of watching things, and the sprite and artwork is really good. Like, I would probably put it higher than Octopath Traveler, but Octopath Traveler had the gameplay loops, because it wasn't a strategy game, it was an RPG of all intents and purposes. But like the water effects and the way they have the worlds laid out, it's more of like if Shining Force came back, if that whole series would come. So I do enjoy that aspect of it. The gameplay and the strategy, like for something called Triangle Strategy, I don't feel like there's a whole lot of strategy to it.
That's too bad.
Yeah, like the biggest thing is trying to get your guys in positions to flank and get behind the enemies. So then you could do. So what happens is you get behind an enemy, and hopefully you have an enemy like in front, or you're attacking from the front, and that will initiate the guy that's behind or in front accordingly to also attack. So you do essentially double, sometimes triple damage. The progression of characters' abilities is pretty good. There's a weird upgrade system to everything, where you have to collect materials that'll upgrade their weapons. That's fine, but it's very slow. And considering I'm halfway through the game and there's like 4 or 5 levels to these characters, and I've just now upgraded like some to 1, not loving that. I guess the difficulty progression is totally fine. I've had no issue with that so far. The game progresses in a way where it encourages you to do these things called like encampment battles. It's essentially there to teach you, hey, in your next level, watch out for things that can catch on fire. Please try to avoid those areas in part of your strategy. But really, the damage is so negligible, it didn't hurt me, but it hurt the enemy. So maybe that was the point to it. And then there's some characters I've recruited, which I just do not see the value in them, at least not yet. And it's been 3 or 4 missions now, and there's one guy who has a silver tongue, and his ability is to infuriate the enemy. So I was like, okay, I'll infuriate them. Essentially, nothing happens. I guess he just attacks him over any other character, which defeats the purpose, I feel. There's one character who can build shit, which is kind of worthless since all the areas are kind of flat. Things like that. I've really just stuck to a few characters throughout the journey, and I'm just going mission to mission and playing it. But enjoyable factor, I'm there. I just wish there was more to it. I guess it wasn't I don't remember if I paid full price, like $60 for it or not. I might have paid 40. If I go back and look and I paid 40, I think that's a good $30, $40 price point. That's good. 60, not so much. I think you're kind of overpaying for a sprite game with not a whole lot of depth to it, is what I must say. But it plays perfectly fine on the Switch. It's there's no huge slowdowns like I experienced in Disco Elysium, which I don't remember. Did I say I beat that last podcast? I believe I did.
Well, you sure talked a long time about it.
Yeah, for those that, if I didn't, I apologize, but I did beat Disco Elysium again. Cool. Wacky ending, very long. It's like a 2.5 hour ending, so much like Stranger Things, I guess. There you go. Yep. That's what I've been doing. And lots of golf. Lots and lots of golf.
Cool beans.
Yeah. I was doing very well yesterday, and then one hole happened, and it was a series of unfortunate, terrible events, one after another. Hit the drive, off into the woods to the right a little bit, punching out of the woods. Okay, here we go. I can see it. Just get my 7-iron out, I can get on the green. Punched it right in the water in front of me. Fuck. Just topped it. Just goes right into it. Get the 8-iron out so I could at least not do that again. Punched it right in front of the green. I was like, okay, here we go. I wish I did that my first time. Get the little pitching wedge out for a nice chip. Topped it. It just goes a million miles an hour across the other side of the green. Now I'm mad. And then I 3-putt the green in fury. It was like a 9 on the hole. Horrible, horrible time to end the day. That was bad. If I can get my putting game down, maybe I can be a little better. That's usually for a lot of people. But
sounds like Happy Gilmore.
Yeah. There was a place called Mulligan's Island, where there's a sick driving range and mini golf course. So maybe when my mom comes and visits in a couple weeks, which, by the way, we'll have to probably plan accordingly for that. Maybe record before or after she visits. I don't want to have to deal with recording times during when she's here. But we're a Sunday morning podcast, so it's fine. I'm sure it's fine. Okay. I guess we can go right into our theme, or we got something else we want to talk about?
I got nothing.
Got nothing. Okay, here we go.
Let's start with Gizmos and Gadgets.
Hey, I'm playing a drop, buddy.
No, screw your job. Science doesn't wait, buddy.
Okay, the drop is over as we were talking through it.
No one cares about your drop, Shitty.
Everyone cares about my drops. They're really cool.
No, they're not.
I care.
See, Colin cares.
When they're ones I suggest.
Well, you got one you want to suggest, Colin?
I would say Chrono Cross, but that's... I don't know if that's science related. Sure,
don't care, I'm playing it anyways. Here it goes. Okay.
I got another one to suggest later.
Do you want to do like 8 more drops?
I mean, I could. I got Phantasy Star. I'll play. I'll play that right now. Actually, here goes. Okay, did that.
Okay, so
I don't know why it was 1 second, but that's what happened.
Why is it? You have terrible drops.
Well, I think that one just kind of bugged out. So because of that, I'm just gonna have to play Mega Man. Here goes. See, that one was longer.
Was it?
It was, yeah. So glad you heard it.
2 seconds.
It was 7, okay. Gizmos and Gadgets, you say?
Yes. Super
Good.
solvers, gizmos and gadgets. Let's talk about the premise of this. Okay.
Oh,
so
God.
this.
All right, before you begin,
uh-huh.
Did you play this in like 3rd grade, 4th grade computer class? On those old like Mac DOS computer things, Apples.
MS DOS, yeah, from Macintosh, yeah. The one where you had to put in the game before it started?
Yes.
Load it up, yeah. Yeah, I've been playing this game probably since it came out. Jeez.
Let's see. Yeah, it came out in 93, so yeah, that would put me at playing it like 95, 96. Yeah. So it was this game and Oregon Trail were the only 2 games that were on that computer class.
That, or we could do MS Paint or whatever the equivalent was from Mac that you could just like do stamps all over a blank screen. That was pretty much all we could do during computer class.
Yeah.
No typing tutor?
That wasn't even typing. People didn't even care about typing back then.
I mean, there was like a counter that showed how many words per minute you were doing. Like, that was it. It would just give you a word and then you'd type it. And it'd say, hey, you typed that fast. Good job. Was that the game you were talking about, Colin?
Something like that. It's more the one that shows a keyboard on the screen and then highlights a key and then you gotta push it and then keep pushing as it highlights more and more and then you get faster and faster.
I suppose, yeah.
Of course, that program was worthless. Online chatting was what really got me fast at typing.
Well, I mean, AOL Instant Messenger. I mean, who could forget?
I used MSN Messenger.
MSN? Those scrubs? My God.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was this Oregon Trail, and then if one of my friends had a computer before you and I knew each other, Joey, the before times, the way long ago, then it was The Sims, I guess, and Carmen Sandiego various games.
Oh yeah, Carmen Sandiego.
Yeah,
I remember that one.
But my experience in Gizmos and Gadgets, I have a vague memory of the elevator being an asshole.
Yeah, you hit up and you jump.
Yeah. So that was a terrible time. I remember never being able to win any of these races, and
because you never read the blueprints, did you?
Well, I was also like 6. Okay.
You're an idiot.
I mean, on the cover, on the box art, it says 7 to 12, and I remember playing this before the age of 7. Okay,
ooh,
so I was trying to.
Boy.
I was against the rules. I was against the machine. Some say.
Did you rage?
Did I rage when I was 6 to 9 years old playing this game in computer class? Maybe in the later years. I noticed on the wiki it says a popular game through 1997, even though it came out in 93. So yeah, that would be like 96. Yeah, that would be right there. Right there when I was playing it. Okay. Weird that it didn't like get popular until like 3-4 years after it came out.
I mean, like, how many people really had computers, and then how many of them are going to get a learning game? So I think it really took off when schools started getting computers, and then they're like, hey, we could have the kids sit in front of a computer for an hour, and I could just take a break.
And have them try to get good at this learning game. Hey, about science.
Yes. Learning game. They didn't care about what game you're playing, as long as you just sat at your computer.
I suppose you're right. lots of Oregon Trail, for sure. But this was right up there when you don't want to play Oregon Trail anymore. Okay, continue.
So you got to beat Morty Maxwell, who, for some reason, you just got to beat him at Shady Glen Technology Center. And he's nice enough to leave parts around his warehouses that you're inside that you can steal and beat him with it. Cyber chimps. Be honest, did you turn off the chimps? Did you play it on easy?
I played it with the chimps.
Yeah. You got to play with the chimps.
So did I.
Got to play it without the chimps?
Now got to play with the chimps. So you can throw bananas at them and they don't steal your shit.
Yeah, of course. Okay. This was a big... I remember this being a conversation as a kid. Do you think they were robots made to look like chimps, or were they chimps with robot parts?
Robots that make them look like chimps. Because I don't really see them too monkey-ish, because they're a big round ball with little arms and little legs.
Okay, yes, sure, but you are throwing bananas at them. Why would they be distracted by bananas if they were
Why are there
only
bananas
robots?
in a warehouse? Why are there bananas in a warehouse? So maybe they
Why are you questioning that?
chimps.
Why is that the thing you're hung up on?
Why are bananas in a warehouse, dude?
Well, I mean, there's
what
fucking
kind of
apples
warehouse?
and shit. There's apples and shit when you play these games, so clearly it's like a fruit warehouse.
Why are there multiple levels? And why do I gotta use vents to get up in different levels? What is wrong with this warehouse?
Well, I mean, it's pretty maze-like.
Idiots. And we're stuck playing
you know what? I bet
faceless
Morty
character.
Maxwell designed it, and he's fucking with you.
Yeah, but I mean, we're the creepiest one, and we don't have a face.
Well, I mean, come on. Ambiguous, non-gender identified person. This game was very ahead of its time.
I remember back in the day, I used to turn off all the games I liked, the puzzles first, and I would just solve the ones I didn't like to get through it, and then I would turn on everything else and then enjoy the game. So, how much did you play of this?
I played like an hour before
That's
I
what
got
did.
infuriated with just being like, oh, unless I collect like every single best piece, I will never win a race, ever.
I won races pretty easily, dude. What's wrong with you? Read the blueprint. Get the best parts. You don't even need the best parts. You just need most of the best parts.
No, maybe I just wasn't finding the good ones. Because there's an aspect of the game where you have like limited inventory, which I guess is kind of cool. But you're going through these variety of like elevators and shooting. There's like mini games where you got to shoot like a shuffleboard puck piece into a ball, but whatever. And then you have to avoid the monkeys that will. So they will steal your part. No, they will steal the boxes. And then you have to throw a banana at them for them to drop it. But then if you don't do that, they meticulously hide these things in different parts of the warehouse to annoy you. So I guess there is a decent little gameplay loop, but is it fun? Sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes.
I agree. That's a good assessment of how much fun it is.
So I won the car races way easier than the blimp races. I never was able to find, I guess, even the good pieces for blimps. Because the blimp is like the first one.
I went right to the cars.
Okay.
So,
it's a lot of cars. I figured the technology... Yeah. So there's automotive, aircraft, and technology? Was that the other one?
Alternative energy.
Yeah, so not really sure what they were going for there, but it just seemed like more cars.
Yeah.
I was thinking trains or some other wacky transportation, maybe wacky inventive things like windmill powered vehicular things, steampunk. Nah, it's just like more cars. I was very disappointed in their lack of imagination for such a game.
game that they probably just quickly threw together and just like, we need something to make these puzzles more interesting. Well, why don't we have a guy run around a warehouse and have monkeys chase them? Good, make it.
I suppose.
Yeah, the guys who made this game actually also made another game called Midnight Rescue, which is another one I played a few times as a kid.
Well, do tell. What is this Midnight Rescue? Is it children getting kidnapped in the night and it's teaching you about the responsibility of not talking to strangers?
If only.
Oh, not that?
I mean, for those unfamiliar, Midnight Rescue is another edutainment game where the main villain is trying to paint a school invisible one night, and the main character is on a mission to stop him, but has to do so before midnight or else game over. And
It's actually
pretty
the
much
same
just
character. It's the Super Solver that's in their Super Solver series. So I guess you could say this is actually a prequel. This one came out before Gizmos.
Yeah, the main character's design is exactly the same. And I recognized it when playing Gizmos.
So he wants to paint the school invisible to steal all the children inside and do naughty things to them. Obviously.
Perhaps.
What do you mean, perhaps? What, you don't think some terrible pedophilia is happening there in those games? This is the 90s, Colin. You got to remember.
How's he stealing kids if they're not there? He's doing it at night.
You're right. There's a hole in that plan.
Yeah, the whole premise of Midnight Rescue is just wander around a school looking for clues to the villain's location, and which you get by taking pictures of his robots, which ends up screwing them up with the flash, and once you have all the clues, you make an educated guess.
And I see. Okay. So it's like you're developing a hypothesis, you're trying to prove it out, and then you come up with a theory with some facts. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, right. I never did play Gizmos and Gadgets at school growing up. Closest thing we had was like the game Chipwits in high school shop class, which I guess was supposed to teach us about programming, and from there do some CNC programming. But I was never any good at it. It was super complicated for my teenage brain. But I went on the website recently. They have like a playable version on there, and it's still really complicated. So that's increased my respect for programmers who do it for a living. But at home, I also played The Incredible Machine, which a lot of the puzzles in Gizmos and Gadgets reminded me of. And in The Incredible Machine, you're basically putting together Rube Goldberg machines to accomplish a specific task, whether it be landing basketballs into hoops by setting off spring-loaded boxing gloves to punch them into the air, or activating a generator by cutting a string tied to a balloon that floats upwards and hits a hamster cage, which causes it to run on its wheel, which is connected to the generator by a belt. Obviously, Gizmos and Gadgets puzzles aren't nearly as complicated, but they look similar enough to remind me of it. And there's also Island of Dr. Brain, another puzzle game. And it had a puzzle where you program a robot drone to go through a maze and collect an item at the end. And all the stuff that Gizmos reminded me of that. And I'm not sure where I was going with that.
Fair enough.
But yeah, that's my little blurb about my own childhood.
So we all kind of have some vague memory of this game, of this learning game. We gotta play like a Carmen Sandiego game at some point on this podcast.
I thought about that. I almost picked it with this one. I almost did Gizmos and Carmen.
Yeah, the the learning company games, or Broderbund. Yeah, something like that. A good theme. Yeah. We can come up with something. Because for Carmen Sandiego, there's the original, and then there's one where she's like going through time. Those are the two I'm more familiar with than others. But yeah, Gizmos and Gadgets. It brought up a lot of childhood memories of being in elementary school. and never knowing what to do in this game. And now that I'm older, much older, and playing this, I go, oh, not as complicated as I remember. At least with Legend of Zelda, when I was 6 years old playing that, or even less at times. What do I do? Where do I go? I don't know.
Yeah, you and me both.
Did anyone beat this? It's like,
no.
I think it can take like up to 12 hours to actually get everything.
You gotta win 15 races, so you gotta do 5 of each to be able to win.
Yeah. It's a lot of platforming. Oh my god.
Yeah.
They get more complex each time, so yeah, it could take a little bit.
God, I tell you, the elevators is the biggest memory I have of this, and yeah, it's still the hardest part. I actually looked up on YouTube. There is an ending to Gizmos and Gadgets. Did you guys do this?
No, I didn't think there was an ending.
There is an ending. So what happens is you have all your trophies from winning all 15 races. Morty goes, he becomes a sore loser. He's like, "Meh, you didn't beat me. I take that back." And he grappling hooks from his blimp. It kind of gets hung up on the trophy stand. It ricochets, slingshots back into his blimp. So it punctures a hole, and then he flies around and because I assume he Hindenburged himself and exploded on contact. Yeah. So
Sounds
now he's
good to
probably
me.
a robot in the sequel. Gotta be.
Maybe.
It's like Android 16 or whatever. Dr. Red Army guy was from Dragon Ball. Anyway, bad joke.
Oh yeah, he went off. I'll watch that. And in that though, you can see there actually are apes that they're apes that have robot parts.
Ha 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 ha.
Or chimps, because they look like chimp faces there. So I don't think he built lifelike chimp faces. So definitely chimps with parts.
The lifelong argument has been solved.
All you had to do was beat the game. You could see, geez, idiot.
All right, buddy. Well, I'll pass Gizmos and Gadgets. It's the whole purpose is to learn in science and stuff. So I think I did that.
I think everyone should experience it once.
Yeah, why not?
I give it a soft pass. I mean, as a teaching tool, it's not too bad, but as a game, it gets a little boring after a while. I'd rather play Load Runner.
Oh, well, boo-hoo to you, Colin. Sounds like you're pissing on shitting on my childhood now. That's what this sounds like.
Hot meat kettle. You know what I'm talking about.
Come on, it was X amount of episodes we played like that cross-country game with Oregon Trail.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay. What's the second one here?
Second one is Half-Life, developed by Valve, obviously.
Never heard of it. No one's ever heard of it.
Sierra. It came out in 98. I actually never played this one growing up because I played all the mods that came off of it. Well, because back in the early days when you had Steam, we only had like Steam for like the whole family, so we didn't really play single-player games on it because it's hard to keep track of who's playing and who's where. So, but I did play the shit out of Counter-Strike, Day Defeat, and everything else that spawned off of it. I mean, I beat Half-Life 2 and the episodes. I just never played Half-Life. So, it was fun going back to it.
Burn him at the stake.
So, as you know, I did not have a computer until fucking 2004 or some shit.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Like you, like Joey, like you remember we had a computer, but it like did nothing. It had Word. Yeah. So it wasn't until 2005 when I was in Germany during the foreign exchange program, and one of the kids brought his laptop and had Half-Life on it. And Half-Life 2. So he was, as we were in the like month-long super course of trying to learn as much German as possible and get used to the culture and whatnot, we were in this like nothing town It was like, I think, a population of 40, and we all stayed at this. It felt like a summer camp thing. So, anyways, God, that brings back memories now. Like, I had this wild classroom in the basement of this like house. That was funny.
Man.
Anyways, the point is, this guy had this guy from what state was he from? I think he was from California. He had a computer. He had Half-Life on it, and I'm like, "Oh, what are you playing?" And he said Half-Life, and I was like, "Oh man, I've heard of Half-Life 2 and Counter-Strike from you, Joey, but never the first one."
Mm-hmm.
And he was playing through the first one, and I kind of watched him play through a good chunk of the game, but I never played it myself. And so this is the first time I'd ever played it myself. How about that?
Yeah, we're in the same boat. Look at that.
Yeah.
Cool beans.
I played the shit out of Counter-Strike and Dare Defeat. Like, I played those all the time. So I'm very used to the mechanics and all that. So, and I think I played like Gary Mod and all that. So I'm familiar with the settings and everything, but I just never played the game.
I did watch Yahtzee Let's Play a good chunk of Half-Life before as well, because that's just a funny experience when he used to do those videos. You remember, Colin? Yeah. Okay, so what is this game about, Joey? What is this thing no one's ever heard of?
Wait, I didn't tell my background about the game.
All right, what's your background, Colin? If you don't want to move this podcast along.
Well, unlike you two, I actually did play this way back when. The first time was at my aunt and uncle's place out in Alberta, and the game copy was my cousin's, and I remember it almost literally scaring the piss out of me. But I still enjoyed it enough to ask for it for my birthday a couple of years later, and I got it. I even got Half-Life 2 even later than that. I remember first hearing about it in PC Gamer, and it caught my interest because the ad had a picture of one of the bigger aliens along with some x-rays of it, and the text said, "This guy would have been in the army, but he ate the drill sergeant." So that caught my attention. And I played the Steam version for the cast, and I noticed a few things that are missing from it that I think should still be in there. Like, there's the Valve logo that appears as it's loading, with the guy that has the valve in his eye socket, although later it's changed to in the back of a guy's head. It's got that bass guitar music playing in the background. I found it really ominous, and that fit with the atmosphere of the game, so that should have been there, but it's not. And the menu is a lot more plain looking in the Steam version, because, as I recall, the original PC version had the text of the title moving, zooming in, and flickering in the background. And selecting the menu items had their own little sound effects, and therefore it had more personality, but the Steam version lacks that. You disappoint me yet again, Valve. In fact, I'm thinking that little Valve music strike should be a drop. I'm going to put it in the chat quickly so you guys can listen.
Okay, well, maybe I'll play it then. Let's see.
Yep.
Waiting for you to throw that into the Discord chat.
It's in there.
All right, I'll click this.
It's right on the exact timestamp.
All right, clicking. Pressing play. Here it goes. Okay. Bow, bow. All right. It's all played. You can continue.
I'll let Joey pick up where he left off, because I interrupted.
Well, I was just going to start about the plot.
I mean, that's the big crux of the game right there, is playing through this just heavy story. Right?
I guess.
Yeah, the story's there if you want to experience it.
I mean, that's what I did.
Things you pick up on, yeah. There's a lot to it. I mean, you're working in a very deep subterranean scientist area, lab that you're messing with some technology you probably shouldn't be messing with. And I gotta say, their OSHA rating should be shit. Why is Freeman in there when they're doing like portal technology? Like, shouldn't he be outside the blast room? Oh, we need someone to turn on. You could put the buttons on outside. You could automatically push things in. You didn't need a guy on the inside. Come on.
Well, you see, Joey, what you don't understand is this is the mid to late 90s, and OSHA wasn't what it is today. Thank you very much. All right. I mean, standards have really, really increased since the 2010s. All right. Now, the facility I work in now, no, it is much like this place, if anything else. For example, where I work, Joey, there is a pipe in order to stick 168-degree hot chrome through, and if an O-ring breaks, the hot chrome will start spraying all over the place. Now, tell me that's safe.
That sounds like a free chrome bath.
That sounds like a free chrome bath.
Witness me.
That's right. Yeah, at 168 degrees.
What I don't get about this game, though, all the scientists don't treat Gordon as another scientist. Like, they look down on him because he's just a physicist.
Yeah, it's kind of like the engineering joke. It's like, oh, you're a civil engineer? Pfft, you're not a real engineer. You're a, are you a, what's the other one? Supply line? No. It's production engineer? Production engineer. Yeah, where they have the title of engineer, but they don't have to take any engineering licenses or exams. So yeah, he's just a dumb physicist. Idiot.
He also doesn't have any access to open any doors. You have to go through scientists or security guards, so was he a slave? Did they keep him
come to
around
that
just for
conclusion?
They use him on experiments. He can't open and close doors. He has to people have to let him out. Come on now.
So do you think the real plot behind Mr. Freeman here is he's like a college dropout that lied on his resume and they found it, but they just call him a physicist to make him feel good about himself?
He's a very special boy.
Yeah, right?
And they sent him on a suicide mission in that test chamber.
They don't need him in there. There's no reason for it.
Like,
I guess he was safe in there.
It was just an accident. We didn't do anything.
When their experiment goes wrong and it explodes, he's safe, and scientists die everywhere else. So I guess it's the safest part is to be right next to the explosion.
Well, I mean, that's like the idiot. No, that's the idiocracy theory. You know, that type of theory where the dumbest people will survive.
So after the experiment goes wrong, you need to try to escape. But then you start running into aliens and then a military force. And then shit gets weird. And then you go over to said alien dimension and shit gets weirder. And thus Half-Life.
And then an interdimensional bureaucrat.
Yeah, G-Man.
Recruits you.
You mean D-Man? I'll have you know, guy's a dick.
No, he's a G.
He is not a G. He is not a cool guy. He's got a weird voice. He smacks his lips a lot. He fixes his tie. That's a dick.
He just disappears. I like finding him throughout. Even before the experiment goes wrong, you can see him in a room talking to a scientist. So yeah, maybe he planned it. Maybe that scientist is the one that caused all this.
Okay. All right. Might be onto something. I gotta say, the pacing, the level layouts, the tight controls, all phenomenal. I have no complaints over like any of that. Really good stuff.
Yeah.
And even for 98, and I mean, obviously there's a lot of mods and upgrades you can get to the game now. Even if you play the 98 version, all of those aspects are right on point. And I guess it looks like Quake is what I'm driving at. Like visually, it looks like Quake. And I think it's in the same engine as Quake. Am I wrong?
I
No, it's on.
I don't know. I thought
Gold
Valve
Source.
created the Source engine.
Yeah, it's a Gold Source, which is a modified version of Quake. The first one was.
Okay. Because I was when I was playing, I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's come out sometime after Doom. It's id Software, but it doesn't look like Doom because we just played Doom recently. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, it looks like an upgraded version of Doom, and I'm more familiar with Quake if I'm like comparing the two, just with my own
this is their
experience.
step to making their own engine. They modified Quake, and then from this, they made the Source engine, which
Gotcha. Okay. All right. That makes sense. So, like, visually, it's not as good as it could be, but from how much they're able to, like, just Valve is able to modify and continuing to prove. I mean, you could play this game in 1080p now, and it looks great. Still very blocky, but 'tis the time.
Well, you can play the Black Mesa mod. It's a whole new game.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
When I was looking at some old Let's Plays of like Yahtzee and everything, he was playing Black Mesa.
Yeah, because it looks best. I actually knew one of the developers that worked on it.
Yeah. I would say my least favorite aspect is probably just I didn't beat the game, but I felt like I got pretty close to the end. It's just all of the platforming sections. I've never really been a fan of first-person platforming. This game kind of does it better than most because we just played. I know it's not apples to apples here, but we just played not Dino Crisis.
Turok?
What did we? Turok. We just played the first Turok, and that has some platforming sections. That's infuriating because like draw distance, and you don't know how much your character can jump. At least with this one, I got a much better feel for it. It's just because it's first person, I have no idea kind of the point of where I'm jumping at. In Half-Life, they're much more forgiving. Like you could clearly be 2 feet off of where you're jumping from an edge, and it still allows you to jump and make these things. The only section I was at where that became an issue and save states became my friend is there's 2 sections. There's one where you're jumping in like alien portal platforms. So that's annoying. And the other one is this where there's like pistons and there's big like magma tanks going on. And there's just this. So the pistons are going up and down, but there's also these little outer edges that you can jump onto. But if the problem is if you jump on that edge and the piston's coming down, you're probably going to be too inward and it's going to crush you. That happened to me a lot. And those are my 2 sections that I dislike the most. And for the facility itself, I didn't find myself getting lost too much. I was trying to kind of put myself in the mindset of, the late 90s, early 2000s, where, a mapping system isn't quite there. It's not part of it hasn't developed in gaming quite yet. So, like, when it came to... I finally got in the mindset of always looking for vents and stuff to crawl in and out to, and that's where I would progress in areas where I just didn't know really where I was going. Were there any, like, aspects of the game you guys came across where kind of had to change your own mindset to think back then, or some parts of the game you didn't like? You guys have any of that?
Like the times where you had to take fall damage. There was no way around it.
Yeah, that does happen a lot. Like going through a vent and you're blasted to the bottom. Some of the platforms you need to jump down. There's no easy way. You jump down anyway, you take damage. You're like, oh, God damn it. But that wasn't that often. But yeah. Well, yeah. When I was low health and I had to do that, I was like, well, I'm not gonna go and try to find a health pack or something. So cheat code, baby.
Yeah, I swear, Gordon Freeman, does he wear rollerblades or something? Haven't seen movement.
he's a skater boy.
Haven't seen movement this slippery since Psycho Fox.
Yeah, it was bad at times. If you're on an edge, you need to crouch or you slide off sometimes. That did get annoying.
Yeah. But one thing I really like about this game is the atmosphere. because I've said it on a previous cast, but I'll reiterate here. Much like Descent, I find this to be one of those games that will scare you even when you're armed to the teeth. And a big part of that is the lack of music in most of the game. It's like when the game isn't telling you how to feel through the soundtrack, it's really unsettling. Plus, and it creates a good horror atmosphere. I mean, Silent Hill was good at that too.
Yeah. Sometimes silence is best. Or, well, I would say in this aspect of Half-Life, it was always good at switching between sections of the game it wanted you to play as. Does that make sense? Who cares? It would do a good job of going from survival horror to like action game to platforming game, and it really kept it kept things from getting stale. And I wish more games would kind of do this instead of the whole game is so okay, for example, we've played horror games on this podcast, and I think one of our biggest critiques is eventually you become numb to the jump scares, and it just eventually just goes into full action game mode. It never brings you back into a survival horror mentality. This game does do that because it switches between that, I think, quite well. And it makes sense in the universe of the game, of the story being told between, okay, shit's going wrong, you hear these clicks and clacks around corners and stuff, and then eventually it goes into, I guess, this like Black Ops group that's coming in, and they're messing with shit. And so that's action game. And then when there's sections where those guys like wouldn't make sense to be at because of, I don't know, locked areas of facilities, they're not going through the rail system, which is super long in this game. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I was not expecting the rail system to go on for like hours. What felt like. But like they wouldn't be there, that kind of situation. Everything kind of made sense in context. They really took a lot of time to develop that, and like where like weapon closets would be, they'd be locked. You couldn't just go into it because of your character.
I also thought they split out the guns really well. You progress and you got different guns throughout, and then also like the super jump towards the end. Like if you didn't get everything early and you were just dealing with it, like you slowly got new things throughout the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's also kind of a claustrophobic feeling to the game. I mean...
Yeah, very tight walls and corridors, yeah.
And occasionally going through vents where there's head crabs inside. That's always a bit unsettling. And
yeah, unfortunately, we're all kind of exposed to head crabs, but man, I wish if I was playing this for the first time, or I hadn't been previously exposed, what my first reaction to head crabs would have been like while playing. I think that would have terrified me.
Yeah, it really got me a few times too. I mean, sure, when you're playing on normal difficulty, they don't do that much damage, but when they just leap at you and you see those teeth underneath, it's really startling. And as far as the music is concerned, when I was playing it the first time, the only time I remember there being any music was when you get your hazard suit at the beginning. But after that, there's very little. Though that could have been a result of me playing on a computer that wasn't completely up to the task of running the game. I mean, happened pretty frequently on our home computer with games like Max Payne and Earthworm Jim. No music whatsoever in those ones. And although when I was playing the Steam version for the cast, I found there's a few spots where there's some music. So either I was correct in thinking it was my computer, or the guys at Valve put more into the Steam version. Now, this is a side tangent, but I remember finding out something interesting. It's about Studio Ghibli making Castle in the Sky. They were working with the Western localizers as far as for the movie's Western release, and they had told the composer, Joe Hisaishi, that Western audiences tend to get uncomfortable when movies go long stretches without any music, so the Western release ended up having 20 or so minutes of extra music that wasn't in the original Japanese release. And I can't say they're wrong. I mean, Half-Life took full advantage of that.
I would say maybe early on, but I think now, since we got used to like a Paranormal Activity where there's like no music, we're fine with it.
Yeah, that's true. And I remember seeing something interesting about the sound design for like the head crab zombies. Apparently, I don't know if it's in the original version, but there's like their moans were like this a backwards audio of this guy being like, "Oh, help me!" I mean, they apparently wanted to do it the front way forward, but I guess, and then the guys at Valve thought that might be a little too disturbing. Because
Really?
I think so, yeah. I mean, this is like years ago that I was looking at this stuff on YouTube, but it was some pretty wild stuff. Just the guy can't control his body, but he knows what's happening and is probably in a hell of a lot of pain.
All right. Puzzle solving. Now, I had some issues with the puzzles in this game. I described me going through like vents and stuff and kind of having to look for that with exploration. But the puzzles themselves, not really much issues, but I think that's more or less the limitations of the time and how we were trying to figure out, at least in this environment of a first-person shooter type thing, how to solve all these puzzles. It's not a game-breaking thing by any means, but I did find myself kind of going, rolling my eyes, like, why do I have to do this? But at least they tried to make it make sense in their universe, which, again, lots of detail to this game where everything was paced and tried to be sensible for what they were going for.
Yeah, it makes sense. I guess it was good practice for making Portal, where it's nothing but puzzles.
True.
And then there's all those puzzles in Half-Life Alyx, although those are a different beast.
Ah, yes, the fun orbs that you gotta go in and around.
And also circuit puzzles.
Ugh,
and to the audience at home, if anyone from Toronto is listening, if you know of any businesses in the area that rent out VR headsets for home use, would you be so kind as to point me in their direction? I'm now craving Half-Life Alyx, but I don't want to put down upwards of $900 for a headset I'd really only be using for that specific game. So, audience, get on it.
I think there was a place off of King Street. I don't know if it's still there. It's been years, but there was a place off of King Street that would rent out VR, or you could go there and rent out X amount of time, and they'd create a save file for you.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
I thought maybe there'd be a VR center out there somewhere that would allow me to play the game on location, but I went to one shop and they're like, "What's Half-Life Alyx?" I'm like, "Are you serious?"
Wow. That's a no-go.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, I vaguely remember this place on King Street would do these big parties, and if they didn't have the game, you could bring your own, and they'd let you play them there. Yeah.
Yeah, because
who knows if it's even still there.
Yeah. When I bought Half-Life for the cast off of Steam, it was still during the summer sale, and they had like the entire Valve collection for like 93% off. So I ended up getting every single game for like just under $10, down from like 100 some odd.
Right.
And then I saw Half-Life Alyx was 50% off, so I figured, what the hell? Why not?
Maybe someday.
I just need it. Yeah.
So like
someday.
Oculus 1 or 2 isn't compatible with it?
Oh, there's I looked at the list of headsets compatible. There's Oculus Rift S, HTC Vive, obviously the Valve Index. It was created for that.
Right.
But can't remember exactly what else.
So
There's six ones.
the ones that's mass released and affordable isn't compatible with this game. That's great. Oh boy.
Yeah, and certainly not PSVR.
Well, no, obviously not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although supposedly PSVR 2 is going to be compatible, or it will have some proprietary use with PC, so that's going to be interesting.
It says
how that develops.
VR support for Oculus Rift. So
yeah, I saw Oculus Rift S, and I was looking online for stuff.
Because if it is the reason why I ask is if it's compatible with like Rift 1 and 2, 1 or 2, that's way more affordable.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I only looked at like one list.
It should work, but I think you have to do a couple extra loops you got to go through to get the Oculus to work with your computer, which is a little annoying, but it's doable.
Yeah, I'll see what I can dig up.
How much is a 2 going for these days?
No idea.
Let's let me look that up. Oculus Rift 2 price. So I think Oh, Oculus Quest. Isn't that the one you were saying?
Yeah, I have the Quest 2. If you use the Quest 2, you do have to do extra loops, but you can get Steam games to work on it. It's just a little annoying. You need a couple extra things. The Rift S is just works with PC, so that's probably why they listed it. Because I guess technically it's not compatible, but you can make it compatible.
Interesting.
Going into like developer mode.
Yeah, the Quest 2. Yeah, the Quest 2 says $300 with $300 with discounts every now and again popping up. So how much would be the S?
Yeah, when I was looking it up, there was like a used one going for like 300 some odd, but the user,
so the S is 400 with discounts and whatnot popping up every now and again. So it might be worthwhile to try out the S. But do you have a computer that can run it is the other question. I
think I do. I mean, I have Asus Tough Gaming.
Yeah, you'll need the computer anyway for the Quest 2. You gotta you pretty much go developer mode. You do a VR desktop, and then you connect through Steam that way, and it works. So it's a roundabout way to connect to Steam.
Gotcha.
Which I don't think Steam says it supports, but you can do.
Sounds like a pain in the ass.
It is. It's a pain in the ass.
Well, Half-Life 1 is like a 14, 15-hour game. I know I'm like 10-ish hours into it, so I'm close to the end. I'm at the end game area. And I gotta say...
I have 8 hours in, and I'm almost to the last boss.
All right. Yeah, you're much better at these. I'm pretty bad. I mean, save states, my friend. Holy crap. I've died a lot in this game. Mostly just because I don't want to say I get lost a lot, but I get lost a lot. But not in a bad way. I'm just kind of wondering where to go. There was all these weird electric traps and lasers that I've never been able to get over easily because the first person aspect and jumping. It's like I'm not used to it. I don't play these games enough. I'm way more into third person.
Well, there is one area where it's a long hallway full of lasers to trip off the machine guns. But if you go through the conveyor belts and around, you end up on top and you can just jump over all the lasers.
Yes. Discovered later. I got frustrated. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. Like events, conveyor systems, up and over. There's a lot of that into the game that you can find if certain areas piss you off. So, gotta say, as a first-person shooter, and that's not my kind of thing, I really enjoyed this game. It's an easy pass. I got very little issues with it from a design perspective. And considering the popularity and how many mods there are, the replay value is incredible. So, yeah, very easy pass for me. Shocking.
Yeah. I knew I was going to like it, but I didn't think I was going to like it this much. I wanted to beat it. So
yeah.
I'm probably going to beat it today. So, yeah.
Awesome. And I give it an easy pass, too.
Yeah.
I might even play Opposing Forces in Blue Shift later on down the line.
Yeah, I was thinking that, too.
Blue Shift?
Yeah, where it's like Opposing Forces and Blue Shift take place in like the same continuity, but in Opposing Forces, you're one of the soldiers that's been sent in to cover up the incident. And
yeah,
Blue Shift, Blue Shift, you're playing as one of the security guards. I think you're playing as Barney Calhoun, who appears in Half-Life 2 with a speaking
Not familiar
role.
with that one. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of side missions, side games. How long are those? Do you know off the top of your head?
Not sure. I haven't really looked too far into it. I just know what they're about. I don't think they're as long as the main game.
Let's see what How Long to Beat has to say.
Blue Shift, based on a Google search, says 3 hours. So
yeah, they're basically just expansion packs. So
Opposing Force says it's like almost 7 hours. So you get both of those. That's a 10-hour game, which is
that's not too bad.
Very good value.
This one guy on Steam said he spent 44 hours in Opposing Force.
What?
Wow.
And 16 hours on Blue Shift, so I don't know what he was doing.
He really loves Half-Life.
Yeah, you can beat, this guy said he can beat Blue Shift in 2 hours, so it's just a couple hours, a little add-on.
Okay. All right, so that's more DLC, while Opposing Force feels like a full-fledged game.
Apparently so.
All right. Final ratings. Joey, why don't you do the honors going first?
Okay.
Your tiers.
Gizmo, I'm going to give it a C. It's a solid game, but it's a very basic game. But it works. It does what it wants to do. And then Half-Life, I'm going to give an S. I think it's top-notch.
Awesome.
Colin?
My thoughts are the exact same as Joey's. Gizmo's C, Half-Life S.
Yeah, I had these in my head as well. Gizmos and Gadgets C, Half-Life S. We get full agreements across the board. A very rare day. Incredible.
Wow. Have we?
Is this our first?
Has there been a game where we've all gotten an S?
I think so. I think it's right there. I think occasionally we've gotten like 2 S's and an A, and then it just kind of gets to the S. But looks like Half-Life is.
I'm talking like all
right.
3 of us.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that's happened ever.
Would Doom, would that be the only one that was consensus?
I doubt it.
The very first Doom?
God of War. No, there's a random A on God of War.
I don't think
so. We all gave it S on God of War. Yeah, God of War got all S's. Yeah, I'm just looking at the sheet.
Oh, look at that.
It's rare that we do that, though.
When did we review God of War?
It was God of War on...
during the death episode.
Yeah, episode 97.
Okay, so that would be last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but for 2022 retro games, looks like Half-Life's running away with Game of the Year right now.
Well, hot damn.
Because Madden got an S, but that was 2 S's and an A. Yeah. And then...
Which Madden was that again? Was that like
Donkey Kong got an S. Because we gave it S. I don't think... But that was last year. So, yeah, never mind.
Okay. Well, next episode is my theme pick titled Is It Better? So we're doing sequels to games that we've played before, essentially, and trying to figure out if this game is better than the previous one that we played. So 2 games there. Guys, this was fun. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye now.